The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Jack Baruzzini. Hey, Jack.
Hey, Dom.
And Pat Scott. Hey, Pat.
Greetings.
Before we get into today's show, I want to tell you about another show on the StarQuest Network I'm sure you'll enjoy called The Secrets of Middle Earth, which you can find wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/Middle Earth. And right now, I think that, if I remember correctly, they're delving into the Silmarillion. So if you've ever wanted to dive deep into Tolkien's works, this is a good place to begin. So definitely check that out at sqpn.com/Middle Earth. And then I want a little programming note. We will not have an episode next week as we're recording this because that's Thanksgiving here in the U.S. and I'm not working. I'm going to be full of turkey. So, so just be aware. After that, in December, we're going to have our annual Christmas gift guide episodes where we're going to, have some ideas for Christmas presents of the techie nature, or at least the sorts of things that appeal to the folks who enjoy Secrets of Technology. So we'll have those to look forward to. And then we're going to probably take off Christmas and New Year as like because isn't Christmas on on a Wednesday this year? And that's usually when we record. Yeah. Yeah, so I think I have it off. So we're going to have a bit of a light schedule through the end of the year, but that's okay because there's not a lot of tech newsy things at the end of the year anyway. So spend the time with your family. But until then, we do have some interesting content for you this episode, which is we're going to be talking about scanners, basically the devices we use to digitize stuff. And we're talking consumer level scanners, the sort of stuff you can have at home. Offices can have these big, commercial scanning systems and these amazing document management systems. We're not going to get into all that. We're going to talk about stuff that people could buy for their home and, home office and keep on a desk or nearby. Just before we start, do you guys have scanners at home? Do you have a scanner?
I actually don't. I don't even have a printer at home.
That's one way to save the cost.
Yeah. I feel like it's one of those things, at least for my needs, that I need it like 2 or 3 times a year. And I usually just go down to Staples and get the stuff printed. But
I wanted to do that Leonardo DiCaprio meme, like you just point and go, millennial. Yep. Well, wait till your kids get a little older. You're gonna need printers and probably scanners. But how about you, Pat?
If he wants to save ink.
No, exactly. Yeah, no kidding.
Well, I've had a bunch of different scanners over time, and of course, my clients. I have a lot of clients that do scanning, but at the moment, I have 2 all-in-one printers that I use the scanning function on, and it's fine for my home use. I'm not scanning pictures. I'm just making copies of receipts or sending something to an office that needs a copy of something. And then I use my phone. In the past, I have had a special purpose scanner that was scanned specific receipts and put them into a database and all of that. And I can talk about that later. But yeah. I have one now.
So I have a ScanSnap sheet-fed scanner myself that I've had for a number of years. And yeah, I do that. All bills, any important papers, they go through that. And then I have software that, OCRs and then automatically categorizes it and puts it into a database and that sort of stuff so that I have it. I hate having a file cabinet full of paper. It's just a pain in the neck. And you can never find anything in there. So I have that. And I also have an all-in-one printer scanner that the kids use a lot. They like to, in fact, not so much now, they're a little older, but when they were younger, especially, that we'd get them coloring books or things, and they would want to scan and print copies so that they could use, to color in and not use up the original book. It was very smart of them, probably My wife Melanie came up with that solution.
Well, and you can share one book among 5 kids.
It's
a little bit easier that way.
It is. Or like a paper airplane book was another one that they did that with.
Yeah,
so rather than use up the paper, the pages of the book, they could just scan them. So we have that flatbed scanner. Don't use that very often. So let's talk about the different kinds of scanners then. So this flatbed scanners, which are basically single purpose. Sit on the desk. They're large, usually rectangular, and they have a lid that flips up. They look a lot like a copier, like a flat copy machine. You have a sheet fed scanner, which means it has a chute at the top that you can put papers like, usually you could fit a stack of papers, even 10 or 20, and it feeds them through one at a time. And they come out the bottom, and it's scanning those mostly for documents. There are portable scanners that you can put in a bag and carry with you places, and they're USB powered sometimes. There are photo scanners, and then there's film, negative, and slide scanners. So a dedicated photo scanner is for just what it sounds like, for putting in 3x5, 4x6, 5x7 photos and scan to make digital copies of them. If you have a family archive of photos, that's the sort of thing you might pick up. But if you have mostly negatives or slides, that's a specialized sort of scanner. So you could put a negative in and it will turn it into a digital photo. Same thing with a slide. And then we mentioned all-in-one printer scanners, where it's a printer copier scanner, fax machine, that sort of thing. We talked about those recently on our episode about printers. And then, Pat, you mentioned in a pinch, your phone can be a scanner. There's lots of scanning apps that you can download and install on your phone. In fact, you could even use the Apple Notes app nowadays. I know Apple has added that functionality where you could scan a document right into Notes, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the thing is that most people have their phone with them all the time, but a lot of people their printer's not working, it's disconnected, or it's not talking on the internet. So they get panicky and call me, and I say, "You've got a phone."
Yes, right. In a pinch, yep.
And actually, like Adobe Scan does a good job of, if you've got a wrinkled piece of paper at an angle, it will unwrinkle it and show it to you really nicely and crop out all the offending bits, etc. So
yeah,
it's a pretty good solution for a lot of my clients that just don't want to have a lot of equipment around.
Right.
Yeah, that's actually what I do with Google Drive. Has that built in natively too.
Yes, that's right. They do.
I use that for receipts or any sort of paper documents I need to save. It works pretty well for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Adobe Scan and Notes, and there's one that Microsoft users call Lens. I haven't played with that, but evidently it works real well with OneDrive, etc.
And I had a pick of the week, I think it was last week or the week before, called Simple Scan from Agile Tortoise Software. That is a really great it is what it says. It's a simple scanner, which doesn't mean it doesn't have great features. It has lots of features, but it's very simple to use. It's really great. One thing I like to do with my phone is to scan receipts. If you go to a store, restaurant or something, right away, as soon as I get it, because if it goes in my pocket, that thing's lost. It's it's never coming out again. Who knows where that'll ever be if I ever need to reference it. So. So let's talk about how do I know which scanner I should get? So if you primarily need to scan documents, then a sheet fed scanner, or you can sometimes get flatbed scanners equipped with something called an ADF, or automated document feeder, as a accessory. But those are good for, efficiently churning through a lot of paper, batch processing lots of documents. Obviously, if you want photos, a dedicated photo scanner is great, but a good flatbed scanner can also be really good. I've used that. I've had flatbed scanners where I needed to scan photos, and I had a pretty good workflow going with that. And those can be really good. And
the all-in-ones often, like the Epson software, if you've got Epson, it's excellent scanning software because it will remove imperfections and try to color adjust and everything for you if you ask it to.
Right. And if you only need occasionally, you need, for scanning, maybe getting something that's part of a printer is all bundled together might be better. And then if portability is your thing, if you often need to scan things on the go and you need something a little more reliable, a little higher end than your phone taking a picture, then a portable or handheld scanner might be something to consider as well. There are pros and cons. So the pros of a flatbed, all the flatbeds that I know out there now, they're high quality, hundreds of DPI, high resolution scanning. So really great for, photos. You can also, with a flatbed, you can scan things that are dimensional, i.e. books and, thick objects. Sometimes if you want to scan a photo in a frame that you don't want to take it out of the frame, although you might get some reflections. But books is the thing. Books or magazines or catalogs or that sort of stuff. That's where you're going to need a flatbed scanner for that sort of thing. And there are inexpensive ones you can get, fairly decent price for them. But the downside is they're big. You need some space, and you need space above it as well, because the lid will have to lift up, so it has to have space around it. And it's slower than some others. You have to move things on and off and make sure they're placed correctly and that sort of stuff. And so, those are really the cons. Have either of you had much experience with the flatbeds?
I've got a lot of clients who do. In fact, I was going to suggest that one person I know was scanning out of print books into digitizing them, and the regular flatbed scanners really wouldn't accommodate them. But there was one that basically had a removable lid and adjustable such that he could pretty efficiently scan actual books without having the little crack in the middle and the bowing that happens when you try to squish a book down on a regular flatbed. And I've had several people that have had, flatbed scanners for like part of their jobs, et cetera, but they were home ones. They had a home business.
Mm-hmm.
And I was gonna say, I guess that's basically it on the flatbeds. The biggest problem I've had with the flatbed scanners, and I've had people who have had them over the years, is that the drivers tend to get obsolete pretty quickly, and they're not supported when an operating system gets updated, whereas printers often are.
Right.
The scanners get left behind. And I've got a lot of people with great Epson scanners, et cetera, that keep an old Windows 7 machine around because that's the only thing that they can scan with.
Yeah,
and
that's the downside.
Otherwise, the printers, that scanner is useless.
One tip I would say for if you're scanning books, if you have a book that you want to scan that you don't care too much about keeping in good shape, it's an old book that you wanted as a digital version, you picked up at a yard sale or a used bookstore or something. I had a book. It was a theological book, actually, that Jimmy Akin needed for research, and it was this. He wanted it as a digital copy because for various reasons we needed to get it in a digital version to get it translated, and because it was in Spanish. So I took it to FedEx, the FedEx print shop. The FedEx used to be Kinko's, and they'll cut the binding off and then scan it for you, and then email you the scan or put it on a thumb drive if you want. So it's a really actually great idea to as opposed to having to laborious scan one page at a time. So
you don't want to do that with the first edition.
No, because you destroy the book while doing it. I mean, you could get the book; they could rebind it for you if you needed to, but they do have to cut the binding off in order to do it. So I
had a client who was a bookbinder, so there you go.
Yeah, really.
I was going to say for the issue of obsolete drivers, there is actually a program called ViewScan, and it's an open source program that basically they've gone in and reverse engineered tons of different driver software for a bunch of different scanners. And it's available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. That's a good option if you have a scanner that's out of does not officially support it anymore, that one is usually able to find what you need.
Yeah,
they've been around. I know on printers, I would go, on a Mac, I could go to Gutenberg and get drivers that would work on an older printer. But I hadn't heard about, how do you spell that? VIEU or VU?
It's
VUE.
Yeah.
VUESCAN. It's in the, it'll be in the show notes. And it's been around for ages. I remember ViewScan back in the day. And they say they do 7,400 different models of scanners.
Oh, that would be wonderful for a few people. Because as I say, we're heading into another upgrade on Windows, and a lot of people are worried about whether their old hardware will continue to work.
Yep. Let's talk about sheet-fed scanners. So the pros on a sheet-fed scanner is it's fast if you have a multi-page document. So, if I had that book that I was mentioning and I wanted to scan it here locally, in fact, that's what I ended up doing was I just had them cut the binding off so that I could scan it here on my sheet-fed scanner. For various reasons, we decided not to do the FedEx scanning. We just had them cut the binding. But you can just, you load the pages on and you just feed it through. And like the sheet-fed scanner I have, I can put maybe up to 50 pages at a time. So I just have to keep loading and it just keeps feeding through. And the sheet-fed scanners today are really good at, not pulling more than one sheet at a time. That's often an issue with some of the older ones. They've gotten better at, figuring out when there's more than one sheet going through and that sort of thing. So they're really good. It's great for office tasks because that means a lot of paper. They're usually much more compact than regular flatbed scanners. And the cons on it is you can't really scan irregularly shaped like scraps of paper or, very small, skinny pages or when you have things of varying sizes, you can't really scan them together. You need to scan them separately. And it doesn't scan as high resolution as a flatbed. Like you could feed photographs through it, like printed photos, but they wouldn't be very high quality. I tried that at one time and I was like, nah, that's not really, I'm not really happy with that. So it's not really for photos. It's really a document scanner. I mean, if you just need them as references in a database, that would be sufficient, but not for precious family photos, that sort of thing.
One comment that I had on the feeding sheets of paper in and scanning them that way, I have had a lawyer tell me that he never does that with important documents, that he always uses the flatbed portion of his printer scanner because trying to feed them through, he's had enough cases where things would get wrinkled and they were original source documents, etc., not digital copies. So just be careful on the sheet feeding ones that it's not something that you would cry if it got damaged.
You definitely want to make sure that if it's important, you want to make sure those pages are absolutely as flat, unwrinkled as possible, without paper clips and staples. I've accidentally fed stapled pages through, and it doesn't like it. It wrinkles them and can even tear them. So, in fact, I have some tips I want to go through at the end here of just in general. That's one of them. And then there's portable scanners, and their obvious virtue is that they're lightweight and portable. For taking with you on the go, throw in a bag, and you can go. You can, like if you do a lot of like library research, you can take it with you to the library. There are some where you feed pages through them, so that's sort of like it looks like a bar with a slot, and it just feeds it straight across. But there are others where it's like a wand that you wave down a page, so you could do books like that. So if for people who need to do a lot of research on the go in various libraries or that sort of thing, this is a great sort of device for that. Or like salesmen who need to scan contracts and get them into the office, or that sort of thing. So a portable scanner is good for that. They can be somewhat inconsistent in the scan quality. Like with that wand one, you got to be really careful, moving, down the page, that sort of thing. And then, the resolution is almost always going to be lower than you can get with a desktop one. That's just the matter of fact. Some are battery powered, so you have to take that into account. Do I have to keep charging it, or how long does the battery last? Some are USB powered, so that they can be plugged into your computer or into a wall outlet or whatnot too. So there's some variety there. I don't have a lot of experience with portable ones.
I had a couple of clients who had them, and the wand ones were less. They were less happy with that than they were with the little ones that just fed the sheets through.
I had a receipt scanner ages ago where it was sort of like you put the receipt down on the page on the desk, and you roll the scanner down across it, like over it, like I don't know, like a mouse sort of thing. Right. But again, I think you'd be better off just using your phone and a scanner app in that case, if you just need to do something like that.
Yeah, the wand ones are really hard to get good results with because it's so variable the way you're moving it.
I would think that's an area where something like AI or machine learning algorithms compensating for erratic movement of your hand in the processing of the image would really be helpful. Like they could really make a big leap in the quality of outcome in those scans with the handheld with that sort of stuff. I wouldn't be surprised to see that at some point. So photo scanners, they have the best image resolution. You're going to get the best quality out of that, and color accuracy. That's what they're there for. So for photographs or artwork, they often come with specialized software for color calibration and editing and that sort of thing. And some photo scanners can also do negatives and slides, so that's all in one. The downside is they're slower because they're higher resolution. They take more time to scan, and they're more expensive. If you need a photo scanner, usually you're a photographer or someone who's a dedicated hobbyist, that sort of thing. So
the average person.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a box full of family photos that you want to preserve, in some cases, you might be better off like taking that to someone and paying them to paying a service to do that for you than going out and buying a scanner just for that. You could buy a scanner, use it and sell it, but you have to do all the color correcting and all this. So you might as well get someone who knows what they're doing, unless it's a hobby you want to do. If the journey is the destination for you, that sort of thing, then go for it. But in general, if you need a photo scanner, and the same thing with a film negative or slide scanner, again, high quality, for negatives and slides, you're going to get your best preservation of detail, color fidelity. If you have an old film archive, that sort of thing, that might be for you. But the downside is it's a one trick pony.
And
it is
time consuming.
Yeah.
Right. And expensive.
I'd actually see something that Kodak has. It's like a low cost negative scanner, and essentially it's just like a black box with a light underneath it, and then you put your phone in the top, and it uses your phone as the scanner. So it takes out all the camera stuff and all that stuff. It's like $30. So yeah.
And an app that they provide. Okay, that is a cool idea.
That is.
I mean, because if I had a bunch of negatives, I'm not sure I'd want to again spend the money on a dedicated, and we're talking over $1,000 in some cases for these high end ones. But if I could get some for $30, that might be worth it. At least try it out and see if it works.
And I have had clients that boxed up their negatives and insured them and FedExed them and all that to a place that would process them. And it was how should I say, higher cost than doing it yourself, but you didn't have all the hours of labor that you would have had doing it yourself too. So they were happy with the results. Yeah.
I think the big obstacle is putting them in the mail, because photographs cannot be replaced.
Right.
That's the thing.
That's the thing that I would worry me, because as I say, they did some special shipper. They didn't just put it in their mailbox.
Yeah. Even then, you can insure it, but stuff can still go wrong. Oh, I'd rather take it to a local place,
I would prefer to do it local, but they decided to go a little lower cost and go to California or something. And it worked, but it was just, I was a little edgy.
Yeah.
The Patterson-Gimlin film was lost.
Oh, right. They sent it out, right?
They sent it out, never got it back.
Ooh.
Golly.
It was the government. The NSA stole it.
They didn't want us to know about Bigfoot.
And then the other one is the all-in-one. So the Pro for the all-in-one printer, scanner, fax machine combo. It's cost-effective for home offices where you need to do a lot of different things, and it's one device, which means it's also space-saving. You don't have a separate printer and a separate scanner. And it's pretty good for just general document scanning, for most purposes. The downside is, whenever you do, a jack of all trades, a master of none. Sorry, Jack. You usually have to compromise on the printing and the scanning and that sort of stuff, and that's what you're doing. You're not going to have as high quality, so it's a trade off. So it may be worthwhile for some people. And then of course it's larger and heavier because it's also got a printer, stuck on the side of it. Actually, one also pro that I didn't mention is it functions as a copier. So you can put a document on there and press copy and get a printout right there. You don't have to have an interim trip through the computer to get that printout. Mm-hmm. So
in fact,
that's another.
What most of my clients do. They don't scan them. About half and half, but half of them just use it for receipt copying, and then occasionally they scan. If they've got a need for that.
Right.
Now there used to be, on some printers, you could get an attachment that would let you put your slides in it and put it on the flatbed of the all-in-one and do slides that way. Again, it would not be as high a quality as the dedicated one, but I haven't seen those for a while, so I don't know whether they're still available in just the niche market or something.
Yeah, you're right. I think I remember seeing that back in the day.
I had one. I had an Epson that you could do slides and negatives.
Yeah, I feel like scanners were a bigger deal years ago. Like there was more variety, more attention focused on them than there is today. Yeah. I mean, I remember, back in the day looking at Macworld and PC World and, articles all about all the different kinds of scanners and all the different accessories and that sort of stuff. And you just don't see that as much. But one thing we will do is we'll have in the show notes links to sort of best in class of each kind. Now, I'm not going to say these are the ones we recommend personally. I don't think any of us have used all of these different scanners, but they sort of represent what I found online to be the well-reviewed, well-regarded in each category. So, for example, for flatbeds, the Epson Perfection V600 photo scanner. It's not a photo scanner, it's a flatbed scanner, but they call it that because it's really good for photos too. But the Epson V600s, like this line of scanners has been great for 2 decades or more. Yeah. So that's been really good. And like you said, Pat, the software Epson's scanning software is really good as well. I can recommend the ScanSnap. This IX 1600 is newer than what I've got. Mine's a few years old, and they can be pricey. Like this ScanSnap IX 1600 is $400 list on their website. That's a lot, I know, but they last forever. I mean, mine has got to be 7-8 years old, and I use it every day. If you need to scan documents, this is the thing for you. And it may be better at doing photos than mine is. I mean, they may have improved it since then. I noticed they have like a new LCD screen on the front of it, which is nice. It would be great to move some of that functionality into the device and off of the software on the computer. Quite honestly, some of the older software is, especially the Mac version, can be a little obtuse, or not obtuse, but a little obscure. This is the word I'm looking for. Whereas if you can just make it one touch on the scanner, that would be nice. And then the Doxy Portable is also another one that I know a little bit about just from years ago. They've been around forever. And this is one of those ones. It's not a wand, but it's a sort of sits on a flat surface and you feed a sheet through one sheet at a time. As a portable scanner, so that's good. And then we'll have some photo ones and negative slide ones. And then I'm going to throw in the HP OfficeJet all-in-one printer because, I've used HP as much as I really, really, really dislike the HP Instant Ink program. The printers are pretty decent. The printer and scanners combos are pretty decent OfficeJets. So I'll throw that in there, but beware.
Just remember that the Epson and Canon also make very good all-in-ones. So, I mean, if you've got a particular brand that you're happy with, that's what I would, say. Look at the different models, but stick with what you feel is fitting your needs.
That's good advice. That is good advice. Yeah, if you have a particular brand you like, stick with theirs because it'll be decent. The scanner along with the printer. So
my only comment on the ScanSnap was that at the time I had mine, as I say, the software got out of date pretty quickly, and I couldn't get it updated, et cetera. And this was years ago. And the other thing is that the software created a database that I couldn't really get the stuff out of it later. Oh yeah.
So there was a period of time where they lagged and get updating their software. That's true, especially the Mac software. That hasn't been a problem lately. However, they do scan. They can scan into a database, but you can scan directly into a file on your desktop. You don't have to scan into the database. It's just a setting. So it's just the fact that the software can be a little hard to navigate sometimes to find that setting. But once you do, you can scan right to the desktop as a PDF or whatever it is you want that output to be at the time you do it. So they've improved that a little bit. I'd like to see what the newer scanners are like and whether the software has improved any from the one that I'm using now. So that would be interesting. All right. So I just want to finish up with some tips. Some 10 tips for scanning, good scanning. Clean the scanner bed regularly. Wash. Keep the dust off. If you scan, if you scan dust, it's going to be dusty on your scan. Like it's just the way it is. So it's just taking a photo. So
dust.
Yeah, and in fact, get some nice lint-free lens friendly, like photographer lens cloths. To clean, and wipe it down between every scan. If you're scanning photos, it's what photographers do. Do you want to do that? This is one that's sort of counterintuitive. Don't always scan at the highest possible resolution. Only scan as high as you need that output file to be. A photo, scan it at 600 DPI, sure, but that's going to make a very, very large file. For most things, you'd probably be okay with 300. DPI for most scans, and for black and white documents, you might even be able to go lower than that and be fine. You want to learn something about, if you're going to scan photos, learn about how to adjust the color settings so you optimize it. It's just a photograph, like I said before, like you're taking a photo of a photo, and so just like you need to set up a camera, you kind of need to set up your scanner to get the best optimized images. Speaking of optimization, choose the right file format for the job. So if you've got documents, PDF is a great way to preserve a document. So I've noticed sometimes people will scan documents into JPEGs, and it's
the worst.
Yeah, you can't OCR it. You can't do anything with it once you've done that. So JPEG for smaller photos, and if you've got higher quality photos or photos that are of heirloom quality or old, and you'd want to you want to preserve every small detail, then you would use a PNG or a TIFF format for those. As I said before, remove staples and paper clips. I have the little staple remover dragon thingy. I don't know if that the kids love to play with. Rawr, rawr, rawr. And you catch your finger on it, and then you get like a vampire got you. But you use that. Get your staples out. The trick with that, by the way, here's a little tip, is use it on the back of the staple first to fold them up, then pull them out so you're not tearing the paper to get your staple out. That might be obvious, but I had to learn the hard way on that one. And then again, look for, paper clips. Look for anything like tape or other stuff that might be foreign substance. Tears, right?
Can rip them. Yeah, right.
Like you could tape down the tear, but if you get like tape that's loose and flapping around, or other things that are folds or that sort of thing, get those out. Make sure the documents are aligned correctly. Enable OCR, optical character recognition, when you're scanning documents, which for some scanners, like the SheetFed scanners, are usually on automatically. Like ScanSnap scanners will scan in the text. So you can, when you open up the PDF, you can select the text and copy it elsewhere. It's not just an image, and that's really handy. Organize and back up your scanned files immediately. So like create a consistent naming convention, folder structure for organizing it, or use an automation. Like I use Hazel on the Mac to look for files with certain characteristics, like certain content inside them, like account numbers and names of banks, for instance. And then what it sees that is it renames the file correctly and then moves it into the right folder structure for storing those particular kinds of documents. So, but do it right away and then make sure that's backed up, because if you don't do it right away, you're not going to do it. You're going to have a folder full of files named scan 1, 2024-11-20, like yep. Scan 2, scan 3, and you're no better off. And the last tip is phones. We mentioned this before. Your phones can scan. iPhones can scan into the Notes app, or in Jack, you were saying that you can scan into the Google Drive on an Android phone. You can use apps designed for scanning, like Adobe Scan or Simple Scan, like I mentioned. And in those apps, you can usually crop and straighten and unwrinkle and adjust and for light and dark and that sort of thing.
Yeah, they're at an angle. Yeah.
So, and then, the advantage there is that you can immediately then share the document via text or email or whatnot. So those are.
I have a lot of people that have problems because they can scan it in and then they don't know what to do with it. So that it makes it really easy on the phone.
So, any other things we've missed on this? Anything else you want to say about scanners? That's a pretty comprehensive scan through the subject. Sorry, so I'm so sorry. All right, so I think that should do it for now. If folks have particular questions, particular tips or feedback they'd like to give, they can certainly do that, and we'd love to share those in a future show. You can do that at technology@sqpn.com. And before we move on to our headlines, I'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of technology, including Alex C., Eric A., Jeremy C., Elizabeth E., and Mark G. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the secrets of technology and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. This StarQuest show is also brought to you by Exodus 90 and the Exodus 90 app. Men, we are called to share the hope and joy of Jesus Christ. Our family, friends, and community desperately need us to imitate our Lord to be radically present and available. What if you intentionally live this Advent season differently, focused not on buying Christmas presents, but sharing the loving presence of Jesus Christ? We want to invite you to join us on the Exodus 90 app and break out of the religion of the world. Join the men of Exodus 90 and Monsignor James Shea, president of the University of Mary, who's our spiritual guide for Advent this year on the Exodus 90 app. Together, we will rediscover the hope that God lays out for us in the coming of his Son into the world. Go to exodus90.com/SQPN to learn more about Advent on the Exodus 90 app. That's exodus90.com/SQPN to join men from around the world this Advent starting December 1st. Be radically free in Jesus Christ this Advent. Speaking of Apple Notes, the Wall Street Journal had a very interesting article recently about Apple Notes and about how Apple Notes has sort of become part of the culture beyond just a simple notes app. It is become, what does it say? When did Apple's Notes app become an extension of our brains? And it talks about how, I think it really applies to all Notes apps. So, this is a Notes app that comes on Android, right? That comes on Android phones.
There's Google Keep. It's on Android phones, but it has not. I don't think most people use it to the extent that Apple Notes is used.
Yeah,
it's not a Notes app that's built into Android. It's other Google products. Yeah.
Okay. Because this article talks about how people use Notes app for all kinds of things that kind of go beyond just simple jotting of a message or a note, and things like some of them are fascinating. This one woman keeps there was something about how she keeps like all her outfits. She takes a selfie of herself in an outfit every day. Then she uses the Apple Photos feature where you can press on something and it cuts out the subject, and then she pastes it into the app, to the Notes app every day. So she has a record of all of her outfits. Like I don't. I'm sure that's a thing that's important to some people, but I'm not sure. Hey, it's my Star Wars shirt of the day, but that's not. Yeah, that's not me. But it's kind of amazing how people have used this for so many different things, and even to the point where when a celebrity or a politician needs to write an apology on social media, like on Twitter or X or Blue Sky or whatever it is these days, it's almost always, you can tell it's in that distinctive font, screenshotted from the Apple Notes app. That it's just become a cultural thing. And it's kind of fascinating to me because I can't imagine that Apple or the programmers at Apple ever imagined that the little note app would ever become used for this. So for me, it's more than about just the Notes app. It's more about how interesting it is, how software can often become more than the sum of its parts when it gets out into the culture, I guess is what I'm saying. But I find it interesting. I don't know if you guys think about that.
Well, and Joanne, who is on this podcast regularly, says basically Notes is her brain dump. And everything she wants to do, she puts in there. And whether it's a note or a journal or a shopping list or whatever, and it's easily searchable. And it's encrypted by Apple with your user ID password, so it's pretty safe. And so, and I've heard some people use it kind of as a journaling software in many ways. That this is what they were doing because they can keep a date in there and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And you've got categories, you've got groups of notes that you can, hey, here's my watching list. Here's all the things that I want to watch on TV this next month. Or whatever. Yeah. I mean, it can be very, very flexible, not just a simple dump.
It almost seems like this is something that developed in tandem with Twitter's character limit that they had for so long. Right. Because I know a lot of people would write out like a big long paragraph of something, and rather than breaking it up into multiple different tweets, they would just put a screenshot, and that was kind of a way to circumvent what Twitter was doing. And it seems like it's just become like a style that you do nowadays.
Right. Yeah, it is a sort of stylistic choice. Right. I like the two things I use Notes mainly for is my wife and I have our weekly menu for our house for our family. Or we put it in there and we have it shared so we both can see it. And then I put all of my scripts for all of our shows in there. So all the notes, when I'm taking notes on the latest Star Trek episode, the latest Doctor Who, that's where I do it in Notes. And I have my intro and outro scripts in there and that sort of stuff. So it sort of functions as something that Evernote used to do for me, part of what Evernote used to do for me.
Before it got taken away.
Yes, before Evernote got taken away. But it's fascinating to see. And my daughter uses it for art. She she draws in it because you can draw in it now on an iPad. So it's just it can be everything for everybody. The new Math Notes thing is really amazing. I haven't really used it much. Don't have a lot of use for it. But where you can draw, like using the Apple Pencil, draw a mathematical equation and it will solve it, and you can change the values and it will change the outcome. It's amazing.
Wow.
I actually had to make sure that my son, because he does his homework on an iPad, I had to make sure that he did not know about that in the Notes app, because I can see that becoming a way to cheat.
That's good. That's good.
Well, I use it a lot for things like, as I say, my watching list or my reading list or things like that I want to be not just a specific calendar item. I want something that I keep and can annotate as I go. And it's so convenient to be able to search through it.
And because you can have it on your computer and on your phone and on your iPad, it's always with you. And that's really, really great. I wonder if I don't think you can do it on your watch, but that would be fascinating.
No, I don't think so. But you can go to the cloud. If you're on a PC, you can go to the cloud and do your notes there.
That's true. That's true. So our next headline was, AI is in everything these days. And so it's another AI story. This one has to do with Coca-Cola. Coke is famous for their Christmas ads that they've done. And they had this one ad back in 1995 called Holidays Are Coming, had these, lit up Coca-Cola semi-trailers, and it was very, homey and, wintry and holiday-y, Christmassy, I guess. They came out with a sort of a 30th anniversary edition homage of that, but they were AI generated, and there's been a huge backlash against it because, of course, there is. Because you're messing with what is more fundamental to people's self-image than Christmas holiday customs and traditions, and even around TV commercials. And there's a huge backlash, and I think rightly so. I think, I just don't understand why. Why would you do this? What do you guys think? I mean, is this just we're trying to save money?
I think it was the fact that we're talking about a Coca-Cola Christmas commercial on a technology podcast. Like, them using AI is automatically going to get it in the news, and
marketing stuff.
All publicity is good publicity. I just find it interesting that they're talking about how this is an AI generated ad, and it definitely is, but a lot of post-production still had to go into it to make sure, like, the Coca-Cola logo looked consistent throughout, because people's faces stayed the same, because we're still at the point, like, this is going to change soon, but we're still at the point where little details like that are still very fluid in AI generated videos. So they still had to do a lot of post work on this.
I mean, it's still CGI. I mean, that's essentially what it is. Just like the original ad, where they didn't go out and, train talking polar bears to drink Coke. Like, those were CG generated, computer generated, polar bears, and we still get the same way. I think you're right, Jack. I mean, in what way is it AI, quote unquote, which is different from the sort of thing that we already have to do? So it may be a tempest in a teapot after all.
Well, and even with photography and filming and editing, I mean, there's a lot of post-production work that was manual back years ago, stuff ending up on the cutting room floor. And it's still somebody who's looking at that and trying to make it creative and make it, error-free and stuff like that. So it's just that we're using computer to do it. Now, if you're saying there's no artists and no creators involved in this, it's all computer generated, then that's a good point. But if it's like people that are in the business creating this thing, they're going to be tailoring it and tinkering it and trying different things with it. And so there still is creativity.
I think that's a combination where, maybe you use an AI to generate some base level version of it. Mm-hmm. And then you have artists and programmers come through and fix it, make it better, tweak it, polish it. And I have a hard time having, like, if this were 10 years from now and this was completely generated without the intervention of human beings, that might be something to be a little outraged by. And maybe what people are saying is I know it's not that, but we need to stop it now before we get to that. So I'm sympathetic to the idea that we don't want to go completely in that direction of everything's being completely computer generated without human touch, without the human spirit, especially because this is around Christmas, which is the most fundamental human of holidays, that where we were already afraid of over commercialization and, turning something into like sort of generic, nameless, and, the whole, wishing people Merry Christmas controversies, that sort of stuff. So there's already a lot of emotion surrounding Christmas to begin with. So, Coke, maybe a good marketing move, but bad juju.
Yep.
All right. Our third headline, speaking of old things, is New York Times had an article commemorating the 20th anniversary of the World of Warcraft and the influence that this multiplayer online game has had on the culture in many ways. And I really enjoyed the article because it's a bunch of anecdotes, really, separate little bits about how World of Warcraft has entered into the culture and influenced things over the years. And, one of the things I was going to say, like, speaking of how it influences things, I know personally a bishop who plays World of Warcraft and has a panda character, I think it was, he said. I have to be honest, I've never played World of Warcraft because it came out right around when I got married and had little kids, and I was no time for that. Yeah. So I missed that early on. But Jack, have you ever played?
I haven't. I was the kid who couldn't afford World of Warcraft, so I played the free RuneScape, which was kind of the alternative that everyone did. But it is interesting that even without having played it, like, there's still all sorts of references that you can see throughout, especially like nerd pop culture from World of Warcraft. Like, I was thinking of Leroy Jenkins.
It's my favorite. Leroy Jenkins. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I had to watch the clip before we recorded because I just had to relive that. That's the best.
I like the thing about how orcs initially were in Tolkien very cruel, very monsterish, and all like that. In the World of Warcraft, they actually have evolved to being, some good guys and planning and cooperating and trying to go on quests to do good things. And I thought that was an interesting, kind of blend of fiction and in the game environment.
Well, I wonder how much that has back influenced the Rings of Power series, because that's one of the things about the Rings of Power series is trying to turn the orcs into not necessarily heroic characters, but at least sympathetic or more complex than just brutish bad guys. That there's that there's more to them than just being monsters. Mm-hmm. So I kind of wonder how much that back influenced it. But the other thing is they talk about how before there was Twitter, before there was Facebook, World of Warcraft was a place where people could gather online and create bonds and community. And some of the guilds that people have formed, have lasted 20 years and has become an essential part of their social structure, which I think is an interesting aspect of it. They talk about in the article about this one young man who 25 years old who had a degenerative muscle disease, lived in Norway. His parents thought he didn't have any friends because he couldn't go anywhere. He spent his time in his room playing video games all day. And it turns out when he died, and they posted that on his blog, they were overwhelmed with this outpouring of support from around the world, and how even some guys flew from the U.S. to Norway to attend his funeral. Wow. Just those are real bonds that formed. It's easy to kind of forget, it's just virtual. It's just virtual. These are real. Yeah. These are real relationships. I look at the connections like my oldest daughter makes with her friends that she's made online because she's homeschooled. That's many of her primary relationships. And these are real relationships, and they've actually gotten together in the real world too, but these are real connections that they form. And so she's big into Minecraft, and tells me a lot about the Minecraft community, and it sounds like a very similar sort of thing. So good. So I don't know if I'll ever play World of Warcraft. I kind of think it would be fun to try, but I'd be starting at base level. I'd probably get noobed and overwhelmed right away. I don't know if I need another thing to do, but there's lots of things like that where I go, oh, wow, I totally missed out on that. I kind of wish I'd had a chance to do it. But
well, just in the alternate timeline, you need to be able to just shift over to that alternate timeline and go back and experience that. Then.
That's right. That's what it is.
Yeah. SQP and Guild.
We probably should. We should get on the Discord and get some people together and get a StarQuest guild going. All right. So those are our headlines. And now it's time for our picks of the week. And Jack, why don't you go first? What's your pick this week?
My pick this week is it's called the Miu Mini Plus. It's one of those retro gaming handhelds. I picked this up a few months ago. It looks a lot like a Game Boy Color, but it runs on Linux. You can run like everything from like original Nintendo, Commodore 64, all the way up through PlayStation 1, which it's not really the best for those kinds of systems, but for anything like Nintendo based, it's really fun. It's like $65. I know we're getting into the Christmas time, so if you know anyone who's into retro gaming, this is a fun little device to mess around with. That's
awesome. Very good. I know you're always good for one of these fun retro gaming devices. That's awesome. It's fun to see my kids getting more into handheld gaming themselves, the Switch and the Steam Deck. And I can imagine something like this for one or two of them would be welcome. So I might have to look at it closely. I have to weigh that against screen time concerns, but it's really cool.
It's nice because the Steam Deck is so big and bulky. It's fun to play on, but this thing is really tiny. So if you just want to do like Super Mario Brothers, it's perfect for something like that. That is cool.
Pat, what's your pick this week?
Well, I've had a client that had a need for something, and I thought I would mention this. This one client is a journalist and goes around recording videos around the world, and she's in Beirut at the moment, and she'll be in Japan next week. But she generates some pretty large files, and that she needs to ship them around and get them to an editor, get them to a publisher, whatever. And so she was having some trouble trying to get. She had sent her family one of the hard drives, and we couldn't read it. And so we started researching some rugged ones that would be really good to be able to be shipped. And so there were two models that we ended up with. One that was a medium price portable SSD up to 4 terabyte. I hate to go any higher than that because having everything all on one big drive is a little scary. So at any rate, the SanDisk Extreme portable one, it's got a lot of protections for water and dust, etc. And it was normally $359, and I picked up one for $239 for her. But the one that her editor wanted was a lacy, because she's on a Mac, ruggedized, where that if you drop it, it won't break type thing, and that ended up being around a little bit less than $600 for the same 4 terabytes. So I thought I would mention that if anybody had large amounts of data that they wanted to be protected and yet shipped, that might be one way to look at it, or even backups that you wanted to make sure that they didn't get damaged with something like that.
I like for anyone who works in rugged locations, even, if you work in outdoors, construction sites, industrial sites, where there's lots of dust or dirt in the air, these sorts of drives are great for that sort of thing. And both LaCie and the SanDisk Extreme both have long track records. They've been around for ages. These are not fly by night. Yeah, so they've been around. So excellent. And it looks like the LaCie even comes with like a crash plan, like a insurance plan and that sort of stuff to back it up. So that's good to see too. So excellent. Very good. Good picks. So my pick this week is a piece of software, speaking of backing things up, that I have relied on for years. And thankfully, I haven't had to rely on it for the ultimate need. This is Carbon Copy Cloner, and this is backup software for Macs. And I have to say, this is the ultimate set it and forget it peace of mind software where you can set it up where you set a source, a destination, and then a time to go. And that right there, it will then back up your computer every day. And then there are things you can do, like you can have it do versioning so that it only backs up the changes, and then it keeps track of the changes over time, so that as the disk fills up, so usually you get a backup disk that's larger than your in your primary disk in your computer. And then as the disk fills up, it keeps several versions, because the worst thing that can happen is you have a backup that has backed up the problem that you're trying to recover from. You accidentally deleted a file, but you didn't notice it for several days, and now your backup doesn't have that file either. So this keeps versions going back a period of time, and Carbon Copy Cloner now takes advantage of some of the newer Apple software, APFS. It's the hard drive formatting. What am I? The
Apple
words I'm
file
trying.
System.
Yeah, it's the Apple file system. So that has versioning built in. I don't want to get too technical. I'm not sure I could explain it adequately, but it takes advantage of some of these things so that it keeps a more reliable backup over time. And a couple of things I really like is that it has the ability to email you when there's an error or something goes wrong. So I run my backups automated in the middle of the night when I'm not working on the computer. But if something goes wrong, it'll email me, and I'll have an email waiting in my inbox in the morning that something went wrong, because I might not notice if something's flashing in the menu bar or something. I want to email to make sure I know something went wrong. And then it can even do things like run scripts before and after the backups takes place, so that it can mount or unmount drives and that sort of thing. That's one of the things I like to do, is I like to unmount the clone, so that I'm not accidentally running software off of the clone drive. That can cause all sorts of issues. So, or when you're searching for a file and the clone drive is mounted, that file shows up in the search twice, and you can accidentally edit or at least twice, and you can accidentally edit a backup instead of the primary, and that creates all kinds of issues. So that's one of the reasons I like Carbon Copy Cloner. I think it's de rigueur. Everybody who has a Mac should be using this to back up. And as I always say, if you're not backed up in at least two places, you're not backed up at all.
And backed up with different methods too, because I like Carbon Copy Cloner, and I also use Time Machine. So I've got alternating on different drives that
right.
I have both.
And I use Backblaze to back up into the cloud, which is my third backup solution.
Yeah, and I've got a different backup to the cloud solution. Yeah. But yes, you want them several different methods and several different locations.
And I store all of my files in Dropbox, so that it's also in Dropbox. Although Dropbox is not a backup solution, it does have an ability to recover some deleted files. So that's another thing. So that's my usual backup and archive and spiel that I do whenever I talk about backing up. So those are our picks of the week, and that'll do it for our show. So we'd love to know what you thought of anything we had to discuss this time. You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology or the StarQuest Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Send an email to technology@sqpn.com. or visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. And in fact, you can even email us or contact us in one of those ways and let us know if you have any interesting ideas for our Christmas gift guide this year. So you can participate. We'd love to get some of your ideas. You'll find links from our discussion and picks of the week on our show notes at starquest.fm/27tech279, TEC279. Remember to like each episode of Secrets of Tech wherever you find us on social media at Facebook, X, and leave us comments where you find us. Until next time, Pat Scott, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
It's been fun. Thank you.
Jack Baruzzini, thank you as well.
Thanks, Tom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest, and happy Thanksgiving, everyone.